Recording. There we go. Up and running.
All right. Cooking with gas, man.
Cooking with
Cooking with
gas. There you
gas.
go.
Cooking with gas.
Uh, so yeah,
How's it going?
yeah, not bad. Not bad, not bad. Was at a book sale yesterday and got some very cool books.
Aye, going
Yeah,
in to find one because I'm sure people watching might be some avid readers or
avid
people
readers.
listening.
Well,
So
avid readers.
what was the collection that was added?
The autobiography of Gandhi.
Okay.
Um, the a commentary on the Yoga Sutras. Um,
So what's
the
that? What's the Yoga Sutras? Pardon my ignorance.
it's the because everybody knows yoga about you do it for the sport, not well sport kind of, calming breathing and all that, and it's all the theory and the spiritual stuff behind it. That's where all that comes from. It's like the scriptures, if you want, sutras, and so it's like the spiritual side of all this. So I got that. I got a very interesting book called Buddha's Brain, which
Yeah.
seems to be. I had a quick flick through it last night, and that is about. It's cool for me because it's in the psychology side, but it's also into the like a little bit of the neurology and brain structure and function and stuff, and how all that. Um, Fits together and how happiness works biologically and all these kind of things. So that seems pretty cool. What else did I get? Ooh, I got Robert Wright, Why Buddhism is True. Now, that's a book I've been wanting for a long time. And that one I watched, probably a year or two ago. I watched a conference that Robert Wright did. He's a professor in, I can't remember which university now, but I'll know once I start reading it. And basically, it's the benefits for mental health of Buddhism, as far as I can tell. So that was a book. And what else did I get?
I
Oh,
saw that book there is correlated between like Buddhist thought and kind of like a mental health kind of practice as well,
I
is it?
think so. Yeah, I think so. That's what it seems
Okay.
to be.
Interesting.
But I wanted to buy his book when I saw I watched his conference about it. I got another one on mindfulness and psychotherapy, and that's done by I can't remember who now, but that looked pretty interesting. So I just picked it up, and it was like 5 Swiss francs. So I was like 6 Swiss franc. The book sale. I was like,
So where
okay,
did you buy this? Was this just like a like
Geneva.
a like a like a book sale sort of thing, and
Yeah, they
people
do.
would
There's a
buy?
place that it's actually an English library in Geneva,
Yeah.
and every about twice a year I think they do book sales, and I'd completely forgot about it. I went to it like 10, 15 years ago, I think was the first time I went. I went for a couple of years, and that was back in the day when I was buying up all the politics books and stuff, and international relations and war and all that kind of business. And so I was there yesterday. A friend um, invited me because she was a member, and I was like, okay, let's go and see. So anyway, so that's a whole load of nice
That's good.
books to
That's
go and get
plenty of
stuck
reading
into.
there. Like, I must
Yeah,
admit, I've bought some books over the last few months, and they've just sort of gathering dust. George, my
uh,
head is like a plate of mince just now.
huh,
Just of other things to focus on. You know what I mean? It's just like
yeah,
I'll
that's
get to
life,
them.
man.
I'll get to them. I'm
Oh,
more
you'll
in like
get
a
to them, yeah.
creative kind of state just now for
Yeah,
doing like a fair bit of writing and just I guess planning
uh-huh.
because it's been very how would I say it's been navigating some tempestuous waters over the
Aye,
last 6 to 12 months like
I know about that, yeah.
but I
Uh-huh.
but no I need to it's no excuse because it's a minute it's like the minute you stop learning that's when your brain starts to decay, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was, as I said, that was Krishnamurti. A brain that doesn't learn or thinks it knows everything is dead.
Aye.
So, also conversations, because conversations turn into monologues, and that just annoys me. So, anyway, that's me. But yeah, so today, this is really like probably the most off the cuff one we've done so far because I'd forgot that we were going to
It's all
record
right.
now,
I think something.
and we're
It'll
just going to
probably
go
end
for it,
up
man.
being a really good one. I think it's just real. It's real conversations,
Yeah.
and it needs to be because like you have got a lot of stuff on. Myself, I've got a lot of stuff on. So,
Mm.
but it's I guess we both made a commitment to say, well, we're going to do this. We
Yeah.
enjoy it,
Yeah.
and sometimes you just come off a cuff in a general
Yeah.
conversation, but
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting with the things that are going to
Yeah.
come off the back of it anyway.
Oh,
So.
for sure. One may call it the cat's pajamas.
Yes, the cat's Jimmy J's, the cat's Johnny's. Aye.
So, but yeah, so off the cuff today, I think this is what we're on the fifth one. So I was
Aye, it's
like,
been 15, yeah.
right, well, this is the fifth one. Why don't we get stuck into the actual practicalities of what is this inner work? How do you start to figure out what authenticity is? Like, what do you actually do? Not necessarily how do you think about it and what's the concepts, but what do you actually do to get there, man? And I think we've both had enough experience in that to throw some things out there.
Like you talk about inner work, for
Yeah.
instance. Yeah.
So,
It's like,
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot that's banged about quite a lot. Like, oh, you need to do the inner work and you need to look within. And it's like people that are going through hell, then that means nothing to them. Like, so what is the inner work? How do you get started? And I think that looks different for everybody, but
yeah,
I think there's certainly some similarities and correlations between people's experiences that, you know, if you follow or do a certain thing,
yeah.
you
I think
you come to the yeah.
I think to start with, it's questioning yourself and questioning what you think, questioning what other people are saying, and questioning. It's a recurrent theme here. I think now is the difference with reactional thought and behavior, and a little bit more analytic thought and behavior. Um, And I think because it has to be analytic to do the inner work. I mean, obviously, it just goes without saying. But I think the very first thing is like once you get that click. Now, how it's always the same thing. It's like how does that click happen? And it's not going to happen unless you've got some kind of curiosity to start to not just accept everything as it comes and accept your feelings and accept all this as truth, or just how things are, because then it starts to become a little bit, I don't know if unconscious or subconscious is the best word, but it's like you're on autopilot
Mm.
and you don't know you're on autopilot. But that moment that you realize you are on autopilot, that's the moment to the little fracture where I think the things come in. And the first thing I think that has to happen at that point is questioning your beliefs, questioning your reactions, questioning your behavior, questioning is this not just is this right and is this wrong, but why am I doing this and where does it come from?
So let me ask you this then, right?
Please do.
We've both done a fair bit of inner work, right?
Yeah.
What was the catalyst for you to say, right, I need to go within myself and I guess what did that look like?
I think it was a bit of a slow burn. And it was the slow burn that led to the burnout. And it was firstly like it was almost like an anxiety type thing where it started. And it started low level and then started to increase, and then kind of exploded. But it was a very, very general, kind of generic sense of not being in my place. Now, in my place mentally, in my place physically, in my place with the job. Um, it's just like I wasn't sitting right. Nothing was, well, not nothing was sitting right, but it was like the the pillars of um, work, of where I am or where I was, where I am because I'm still here, um, and what else would I say? How I feel about myself, there was nothing. Well, it's not true. It wasn't. There was nothing. It was like there was a kind of, let's say, a low-level anxiety or a low-level stress. Let's put it stress. It's not. It wasn't necessarily anxiety. It was like a low-level stress, which was just always there. Which at the time I couldn't see being uh, that it was actually misalignment. Um,
Mm.
which makes sense because, and this might speak to some people, that it's normal, I think, that I didn't see that it was misalignment because I didn't know what the alignment was. And I didn't know what I really wanted, and I didn't really know what made me. I just knew I was here, I was doing stuff, um, and it generally just didn't feel, not necessarily didn't feel right, but I didn't feel at peace. And it was more negative than positive. And so like the happiness and the joy was like uh, it was there and it would come for sure, but it was in a background of kind of um, not necessarily negativity, but Malalay's. I hate this when I forget my English
Chaos
words.
with it is
It's
that
it's like uh, oh man, I'm gonna have to Google this word in English. Malalay's not.
you went a Frenchman,
I know
you went a
it
snail.
happens. Oop, sorry, I'll shift that out the road. Malays. Discomfort,
You had
uncomfort.
to Google that. You had
I
to
had to Google
Google
that, man. It's like
discomfort.
that's with three coffees. Sometimes stupid stuff. It annoys me. It happens every so often. It doesn't happen a
Because you're
lot, but
jumping between two languages, though, are you?
yeah, honestly, a lot of it I'm doing over here is in English. Speak English with my wife, but outside the house it's all French because we're in France
They
and
speak Italian, no?
Italian. Little bit. I can understand
Yeah.
about 60,
Poco
65% of
poco
Italian.
italiano, eh?
Pochettino, sì.
Poco poco.
But yeah, it was like this kind of generalized discomfort, um, and I couldn't always see that it was there. And as I said, and that makes sense because that if you do see it, that assumes that you have started to understand or started to see that, yeah, things are not right, but also you don't know what that right is. So, I mean, that's entirely, I would say, I don't know, normal, logical, that that's how things are. But as things got more intense and finished up with this burnout, that's when everything hit. Um, but there was questioning, and then the questioning, let's say, of belief that I wasn't in my place, so to speak. Um, so which basically is alignment. Um, at the same time, that belief started slowly to turn into truth, that I knew it to be true.
Mm.
But then the problem is like that, if you're a realist as well, it's like, well, you can't just quit your job. You can't just go and, uh, you know, go off to India or something and meditate in a cave, you know, because uh, my wife would not be pleased with that. And, there's always responsibilities, so it's like what happens, but that's how it started for me anyway. It was basically a low level stress which increased in intensity over time, and then finished in a cathartic type, uh, uh, I would say, negative explosion.
Aye.
um, but during that process, because it took a few years, I think, but during the process, the questions kind of naturally came because something wasn't sitting right.
Uh-huh.
And then, but then that's also the other thing. It's like, as I said, if you're realist and if you're, that that you can't just let everything go and stop because there's the responsibilities. You have to the family, to your friends, to paying bills and all these kind of things. I mean, that's just part of the process. But Um, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't. That's how I would say it started. Low level stress, increasing in intensity, questions coming, uh, bigger questions coming more frequently. Um, but I didn't have the awareness at that point until it was kind of too late. That's how I would say it worked out for me. That's how the stuff started.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it wasn't, but then that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, you've got to go a whole through all this crap, but at the same time, if you're lucky enough to get out the other side, um, then that's when you've got real change and you've got real positive change, and then there's hope, and then there's motivation, and then there's alignment, and then there's all these good things which happen after. But you can't bypass the process.
Well, you said that before. I was just about to say that to you. It's like you say, like if you're at the start of the process, you kind of be at the end of the
Yeah,
process. You've got to go through it. You've got to go from
yeah,
cradle to grave, have you? You know.
yeah.
So it's like, yeah. There's one thing you said there about questions.
Mhm,
It's an interesting one.
mhm,
I think for me, there's been a number of catalysts, if you want
mhm,
to say that. There's been, let's
mhm,
just say, a few rock bottoms.
mhm,
A number of rock bottoms. But the last one for me really hit home. I was just, I guess you could say, I was still battling with my inner demons, trying to
mhm,
get myself on an even keel.
mhm,
And then the hell breakdown of my marriage
mhm,
and separating, that kind of just floored me.
mhm,
Absolutely
mhm.
floored me as I was trying to pick myself back up.
That's interesting that because that's the family's obviously the core structure that you have in your life.
Yeah.
And if you're also
Yeah.
trying to build yourself up and the structure collapses, the
Well,
building up collapses as well a little bit.
see what it was
Hmm.
is that I've derived upon the realization that everything that I had lent on for my identity went like that,
Yeah,
gone,
yeah.
disappeared,
Mm,
up in smoke.
hmm,
Now, I'll tell you, George, that is one of the most haunting things for a man to derive upon. For there's nothing but chaos
hmm,
in his external reality
hmm,
and absolute chaos and misery within his internal one.
mm,
Now, I I remember it like it was yesterday, and I'll always remember this for the rest of my life.
hmm,
I wasn't sleeping. Like physically, I was
hmm,
buggered.
hmm,
Psychologically, I was numb.
hmm,
Emotionally, I was just a wreck.
hmm,
And spiritually, I was just void. I was just
hmm,
nothing. I was just
hmm,
a shell of a man.
hmm.
Now, I was lucky if I was getting maybe 3 hours sleep
Yeah,
for
that's
a
rough.
period of time,
Yeah, yeah,
about maybe like 9 months, right?
yeah.
And I remember being back at my mum and dad's house, right?
Hmm,
And I was working for a supermarket at the
hmm,
time as a
hmm,
temporary job because I
hmm,
was ended up been working, trying to set up my business at that time, which was obviously try to do everything at once, set up my business, struggling with my mental health, had really bad experiences with some past employers that really kind of left a mark on me, and then
hmm,
subsequently kind of your world that you think is safe and solid disappears as
hmm,
well. I remember sitting like in my mum and dad's house. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning,
hmm,
and I opened the blinds. And I couldn't sleep. I opened the blinds and I sat at the end of the bed in my mum and dad's spare room, and I was just looking. It was a clear night. You could
hmm,
see the stars and moon. It was just it was just clear.
hmm,
And I remember sitting at the end of that bed and just saying, Danny, what is going on, man? Like
hmm,
what? Like how have you found yourself at this point in your life? 30, what was it at the time? 35,
yeah.
35. Like back at your parents' house, and I just
Hmm,
felt like a complete and utter failure. Just
hmm.
absolute failure. But something happened that night, George.
Okay.
Like something happened that night, and I always go back to it because it's almost like the night of the dark soul. I think that
Hmm.
was what Jung called it. Was it the
The
night of the
dark,
dark soul?
dark night of the soul.
Dark night of the soul. That
Hmm,
was my dark night of the soul, where I was like, "There's just this is just awful. Like I didn't want to be here. I really
hmm,
didn't. I was
hmm.
just thinking I'm not wanting to be here.
Yeah.
I was sort of suicidal, wasn't it? I was not
Hmm,
denying it,
hmm,
but." I sat at the end of that my bed there in my mum and dad's spare room, looking out into the stars, asking myself, like, one, how have you got here?
Mhm.
What's happened to you to get to here?
Mhm.
And the more that I sat in silence and I guess took stock of myself as to where things had went wrong.
Mhm.
And it's very easy to start saying, well, things went wrong here in my career. Things went wrong here because I was doing this, or and then this person did this to me or whatever. And
Mhm.
it's very easy to play the blame game
Yeah.
towards other
Oh
people,
yeah, yeah.
but moreover berate yourself as well,
Mhm.
which doesn't help matters
Yeah.
either. And there was a Chinese proverb as well that I read ages ago, and I thought, something this is spot on. It's something I try and always say to myself when I blame myself, or I'm maybe berating myself, or
Mhm.
I think, oh, that bastard's done this to me or
Mhm.
something. Is It's a Chinese proverb that goes that the man who blames others has a long way to go on his journey.
Mhm.
The man who blames himself is halfway there,
Mhm.
and the man that blames no one has arrived.
Right.
So I sat with that and I was thinking to myself, something, it's better to not blame anybody because not yourself, not others, but to take full responsibility and accountability
Mhm.
for the situation and the shit that is going on.
Mhm.
And how do you deal with this big monster and this mess, whether it's in your internal world or in the external
Mhm.
one? You say, right, well, what's the first step? What's the first thing that I could do to get me further along down the line? And
Yeah.
it's just taking a step towards the person that you want to become every day.
Yeah.
But the questions you've got to ask yourself hard questions
Mm.
in order to grow.
Yeah.
But that comes with honest confrontation
Mhm.
and honest dialogue.
Mhm.
Um,
Which you don't always have the energy to do when you're going through all these things, man.
but George, see, the thing is, and I agree with you, because at times you're just going to be a ball of numbness,
Mhm.
and there
Mhm.
is going to be days like that, and you're just
Mhm.
going to have to get through it.
Mhm.
But if you didn't face the monsters within and the chaos that is the thing,
Yeah.
I always say, fix your internal world first,
Mhm.
and then you can start going about attacking the world, the external world.
Yeah.
But it starts with you fixing, because here's the truth, right? And this is an observation of mine, right? Most people build their internal world and their identity on smoke and mirrors. Now,
Mhm.
you cannot build something solid if your foundation as a person for your identity isn't solid and it's built on smoke and mirrors. That's going to come crumbling down eventually. It's got
Mhm.
to.
Mhm.
It's not a solid foundation. So it's, how do you coat your mind in Kevlar and steel, but
Mhm.
have a heart that is open and willing to feel? That was one of the questions that I asked myself,
Mhm.
and it's something that I put in a poem as well,
Mhm.
actually.
Mhm.
And it's asking hard questions of yourself, and it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. And it's not meant to be easy, because if it was easy,
No,
everybody would be doing it and the world would be a wonderful place. But everybody isn't doing it, and the world's not necessarily a wonderful place, especially at the moment. But it's that's the thing. I think to recognize that it's not easy to do, um, and it's okay that it's not easy, and it's even normal that it's not easy. Um, just simply for one thing, as I said, because if it was easy, everybody would do it, but it's not. Um, but the the depth of the like crap that you have to go into, I think, if you take away the smoke and you just leave the mirror, it reflects the depth of the positivity and maybe joy that can come out after.
I get where you're going with that.
You
I
see,
get where you're going with that.
um, but you
But
have to go through the process first, and it's okay that it's not easy. It really is. This is a thing. It's completely normal, and I
but
think
mirrors
that's
will always shatter under external weight.
well, it depends what it's reflecting.
I, I,
But
I honestly believe if you build your identity on mirrors, it's not solid enough. You're gonna end up finding yourself in a hole again.
yeah, well, then you have to define what the mirror is. Um, but It's
Yeah.
sorry, I'm just doing devil's advocate in there for a
No,
minute,
it's true.
but it's like uh, yeah, I think from that the first point is um, when it's really hard, it's okay that it is really hard. Um, and if I think one of the keys inside that is to have the curiosity to say, okay, how can this be different? Um, and if you have like this central concept of just a minimum of curiosity, the questions will naturally come after. And then once you start that, I think that's the first part of the process. It's the first.
It's very interesting the way you see it because like I must admit I'm completely different.
Okay.
Like I think we operate between two worlds. And I think I maybe said this to you. I've got something that I'm working on just now called the theory of two worlds.
Hmm.
In simple plain layman's terms, the two worlds theory is your external and your internal. But
Hmm.
most, and again, this is an observation of mine, most only serve one world, and that's the external world because you mentioned it earlier, responsibility, bills, like that side of things, your career, these are all
Yeah.
things that you need to serve in order to keep the way of life that you currently lead.
I'm going to half agree with you.
Okay, right. It's interesting. I want you to disagree with me. I want
No,
this is like stress test the arguments. This is
I'll
fine.
stress test that a little bit.
Go for it.
I would say that it's the internal world, as you say, creates the perception of the external world. And now the external world might not change. It might be exactly the same, but your perception of it changes. And you see what I'm saying? If the perception of the external is based on the processes and the state of the internal situation, um, then logically, which is an argument for growth and
Mm,
authenticity and all the rest of it, if that's the case, then if you can change the inner with all the inner work and all the rest of it, um, you can change your internal state, which can get rid of the perceptive filters, let's say, of how
okay.
you see the external. And the external is not going to necessarily change. You know, it's like you're still going to go to the same places, see the same people, and see the same. Well, it's kind of thing. I had an example I used in the class the other day. You got somebody who's depressive, okay,
Mm,
let's say not necessarily major depressive disorder, but even seasonal depression, something like that, and
yeah.
you're looking around and you're outside, and I was using the example of like us in the classroom because it was like a, a course in depression. I was like, I hope you guys are not depressed, because that's going to be a reflection in my teaching. And you talk about perception and stuff like that, it's like, well, that doesn't reflect positively on me. But um, you're looking outside, and what do you see? It's not the same as what you're aware of. Well, it's kind of again, I guess you could say it's
Well,
a bit non-dualistic, but it's like you can see that it's a lovely sunny day, and you can see the birds, and you can see the trees, and you can see all the nature and stuff, and not notice it.
yeah.
And that's
See,
an example of how the internal will create the perception of the external.
mm, see one thing, George, right? And this is see as a young kid.
Hmm.
I remember my childhood. I had a great childhood, loving family and that. But I think I've said before, things started to change for me when I was about 7 years old, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So for about 30 odd years of my life, I've been at war with myself and I've been at war with the world, right?
That's Tyrone.
Fucking right as Tyrant. But see now, I'm I feel at peace with myself,
Hmm.
but I'm still at war with the world. And I think I'll always be at war with the world.
What if
Because
you are the world?
what do you mean by that?
If you look at everybody else as another human being, and you look at yourself as part of nature, and you look at yourself as I think we said before, not the in the world and of the world.
Mm,
Um, if you're a product of the world and so is everybody else, if you switch the thinking towards that, then um, it's more difficult to be in conflict with the world. And then you have to define what the world is, because obviously it's relational and it's going to be other people.
mm.
Um,
Well, see, to be honest, I'm a man that likes to spend a lot of time alone. I like my
mhm,
solitude. I like being on my own. Um, and I've said it before with that Nietzsche quote about, he who sees too much ends up not fitting in anywhere.
mm.
I feel like that, George. And when I first read that, I was like, that's the way I feel. And I feel
Well,
like I fit in this world. I've no interest in now, to be honest. I'll be live away. I've no interest in like social gatherings or anything like that now. I'd much rather just be left on my Todd doing my own thing. And it's not a place, it's not coming from a place of the world and everybody
mhm,
within it.
mhm,
Nothing like that at all. I care deeply about people.
mhm,
That's why I do what I do in the
mhm,
kind of coaching side.
mhm.
But there was, I think it was Simon Sinek that said this is like,
All right.
if you can imagine like people get tokens, right?
Mhm,
So you've got like, say, 5 tokens for your day, and the extrovert goes to like a social setting, gathering, and they get so much interaction and so much more tokens from interacting with others and being in a social setting. But the introvert gets replenishes that tokens when they're on their own, when they're doing their own thing and being in their own energy,
mhm,
you know? And I was very extroverted as a young man, out and about, always, I would go to the opening of a envelope. That's basically, okay, like, that's what I would do. But see, the older I've got, I've just thought, I've almost kind of pulled away, and I wouldn't say I'm introverted, like I fall in either camp. And I was
mhm.
like, I don't know, there's this new psychological thing. I think it's called an autotrovert. That's what it's called. I don't
Okay.
know what it is. I don't know if you've seen this. An autotrovert, OTROVRT, autotrovert, that
Mm.
is basically like a balance between an introvert and an extrovert.
Ah, and they
It's
put a
very
name to that.
interesting. Yeah.
That's weird for me because you put introvert. Yeah, it's always not always, but a lot of the time it's contextual.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's situations. Obviously, introverts will avoid or not feel comfortable in big social gatherings, but extroverts obviously do. But
Mm-hmm.
then you can be have really strong relationships as an introvert with your family and your friends,
Mm-hmm.
close friends, and all the
Yeah.
rest of it. I don't know. I haven't looked at it, but it sounds a little bit not quite my cup of tea to start putting a third one in there because I see that all these things are on a continuum. I mean,
Yeah.
introversion, extroversions, it's in the big five. And so you look at that, let's say between 0% and 100%. Um, all these things like that. It's interesting though because all these traits are stable over time and they're quite predictive. People can, in terms of behavior, because you're going to tend to act in this certain way uh, across the board. But at the same time, it does, if you're realistic and you're not like completely rigid in your thinking about the usefulness of the
Yeah.
model, um, it's quite contextual at the same time as well. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
just
I know.
first thoughts off the top of my head. I don't
I
know.
agree with what you're saying. It's like any piece of information, George. It's all subjective. To be perfectly honest, it's how you
Well,
choose to interpret it. I believe, like, and how you can make sense of something yourself.
the just the big five though, that was descriptive. That was not like a theory. That was something that they came out. Costa McCrae five. Oh no, they came out with that, and it was I can't remember how many traits they they took it down from, but I think it was like over 200 or something. And that was a descriptive. It's like a snapshot of your personality, which are stable
Mhm.
and stable over time. But then there's inside of all of this. Um, uh, there's always gains and losses. You can see it from that way as well. You know.
Yeah,
But anyway, we're getting a bit off track with the
interesting though.
yeah.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
Autrovert, I'll check that out and see where that comes from.
Aye, yeah. It's something that I just derived upon a couple of days ago. I noticed someone else. Oh, that's interesting.
Just also
Had
a
a
quick
read on.
question off the top of my head. Um, if everything has an opposite, what's the opposite of Autrovert? Because it can't be introvert and it can't be extrovert. Mm, conceptually, I'm not quite sure about this, but well, I'll check it out and I'll see what I think.
Well, aye, yeah. It could be the new triad, a triad of personalities, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It's something that I saw and I was reading about it in an article, and I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
You could see certain things, but I suppose you could see certain things if you're looking for them, George. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're looking
This
for
is
some
what I'm
sort of
talking
answers,
about.
you know what I mean?
That's
You know?
exactly what I'm talking about. If you're looking for them, what you're looking for, that's your
Yeah.
perception, the internal perception of the external. That's
Hmm.
exactly it. That's how it works. So anyway,
Uh,
um, but yeah, if we come back to the thing about what do you actually practically do for this inner work, first thing's the questioning.
yeah.
Get the questions. Then it depends on the answers that you get. Then are you comfortable with the answers that you get? And that's something
No,
that's
you're
gonna,
never comfortable with them. You're never comfortable
well,
because they're like George. If you ask yourself, if you're truly honest with yourself, and this is what I've found anyway in my experience, if you ask yourself, if you can sit alone with yourself in silence,
hmm
take stock with yourself, the answers to certain questions that you have will come, but it won't be the answers you want. But you should listen to them because they're the right answers that you need.
there you go. So that means that, well, then you've got two, I would say two things for that. Is comfort and peace the same thing or not? And secondly, is if you said if the answers that you get are not the ones you want, but they're the ones that you need, then that suggests over time they will become the ones that you want,
Yeah.
logically. And then
Mm.
when that point comes, then the comfort or the peace, whatever you want to say, will come with it. So that sounds like if at the time the answers that you might get are not the ones you want, and so that creates conflict and negative emotion and all the rest of it. But if you really understand, and I guess that's the thing, if you understand or if you think that, or even if you know that that's the answers that you need, then that starts to get into alignment territory.
Yeah.
And if
Uh-huh.
you're in alignment territory, then there's peace that comes with that. And or even let's say not conflict which comes with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be peace.
But see if you when you go through whether it's a hard time, regardless of where it lies with it, if it's emotional, if it's psychological, if it's physical, if you go through a hard time, you need to. I think you need to be okay and say to yourself, "I'm probably not going to be all right for a while here."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
And I think it's
because
facing up to that and saying, "I'm not going to be all right here. I'm need to go do a bit of self exploration and find out what the hell's going on within me."
I would also just add to that, if you're at that point, you've already been not all right for quite a while.
Yeah,
And so a recognition of that means, okay, at least now it's better because I've understood that.
and moreover, you start to accept it. I think you start to accept where you are and think, right, okay,
Yeah. Because what's
I
the
need to do
opposite
something.
of acceptance? By conflict. What do you
Denial.
not want? Problems. What's that? Conflict. Acceptance. Oh dear. Sorry, that's. I'll edit this out.
Apologies for this interruption.
Go on. Anyway, sorry. What were we saying? What were we talking about?
Mate, I've got attention span of a goldfish. You know what I mean? Like, and it's away.
What were we talking about?
Acceptance
Yes,
and
acceptance. Well, that's it. So acceptance, um, being on the other side of conflict. That's the path. I think there's almost like a logical progression in this inner work. If you stick to it, that's the thing. And if you well, if you can stick to it, because it's not easy, and not everybody, um, everybody evolves at their own speed, and everybody
Mhm.
is on their own path. And also, I think that's an important thing to recognize. And again, why you don't start comparing yourself to other people and all the rest of it, because you are on your own path,
Yeah.
and your path might take longer. It might be more difficult. It might be more easy. Um, but it's still your path, and you're the only one that can do it. Which means, as long as you have some curiosity, uh, enough strength, you think you've got enough strength to keep going, um, which will logically come because you're going to have many results at least. It's like baby steps. You're still forward,
Yeah.
but it might be baby steps, but it's still forward. Um, and I would say as well on that point that it, recognize the progress, even if it's tiny progress, it's still progress. You're not in the same place you were before. You're a couple of, even if it's one or two baby steps forward, it's still forward. And that's the thing. I think you talked about that before in one of the other episodes about stepping forward. It's still forward. And again, like if you talk about what I had said a wee while ago as well, on you cannot be at the end of the process. So that it's
You've got to
not
step
own,
in.
huh?
You've got to step into the life that's waiting for you.
Yeah, and you have to
To leave
actually
the
take
light
the
behind.
step.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can be pushed into because you're the
Mm.
only one that has the answer to what that looks like. Um, so I think there's at the start of how you practically start all this inner work, it's the the initial, let's say, build up, and then it's starting to ask questions, and also adding in some awareness of a process which you've just started, and also to recognize the mini results when they come.
Mhm.
And I think that's a fairly uh, generalized way of for everybody's individual path, um, of how the basics of how it should look like, let's say.
Yeah.
So, and slowly, some strength and so some resilience will come with it. But it's if you can, I think if you can really bring to the front of your consciousness that the discomfort that you're feeling is actually discomfort, and not say this is just me and this is normal, um, or let's say to normalize the discomfort, in the sense that that's just how things are, suggesting that how things are permanent, and then you lead into depression and all the rest. I don't have the ability to change anything. I don't have the ability to change myself, and then it's self-efficacy and all the rest of that stuff. But just kind of as calm as possible, which is not easy, but still lower the intensity of the freak out, um, enough to say, okay, this is what's happening, and just
Mm.
sit with it, and then slowly things will get better because if you recognize that you have some results, not looking in too far into the future, but just say, okay, I've recognized this, I've recognized that, even a little bit of a list, do a little bit of a journal and say, okay, what's going on? It's like, well, already at that point you're making a step forward just by making your little journal and doing your list. Because what does that suggest? That suggests understanding.
Well, the power of the pen's a real thing. And I must admit, when I was going through my mental health troubles back in 2019, I watched, I don't know what it was, but I watched some bloody YouTube video, and there was this guy speaking about journaling.
Hmm.
And then I thought, can someone, I'm going to go and grab a book, and I'm just going to start dumping what's in my head onto paper.
Yeah.
And see, to start with, George, it made absolutely no sense. Just no sense. Just
Hmm.
sheer, just erratic on the page. But see, the more you do it, it's like a muscle.
Hmm.
The more you train it, like, but what I found with doing that, see the mess that was in my head, getting it down into paper,
Hmm.
it felt very like cathartic and very
Hmm.
therapeutic in some ways. And I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole saying, well, why is that? Why is that like making me feel to some degree a little bit better? And if the
Mm-hmm.
more I do it, is that going to compound over time and I'm going to feel really good? And then there was a number of things that I came upon with journaling was that if you're taking a pen and a bit of paper, and I've got honestly, you should see my desk. It's like Hiroshima with paper and pens just now. It's just like Hawaii. But there's something about the power of the pen because when you're writing down, you've got the kinetic movement of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about the words that you're wanting to put onto paper, but I actually speak them out as well. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
speaking them as though I'd be speaking to like you
Mm-hmm.
now,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of process, you're thinking, the kinetic movement, you're speaking. It's a multi-stage process that transforms onto paper.
Mm-hmm. There's also novelty in that, and that's an interesting thing because you're doing something new. You're doing something
Yeah,
different. So you're not in the repetition of what was before.
but
And
I
so,
also sorry,
no, I'll
carry
just
on.
say the novelty is there's the positive side is that it's something new, but it's also the negative side is it's something difficult. And
Hmm.
so I
Yeah,
think it's also to recognize and bring that to the front of your consciousness that uh, it is something new. You're doing something different, which means by definition you're not doing the same, which was
but
all bad before. You know?
I think as well that with journaling, for instance, I've got journals for years ago that I've kept, and what journaling actually does from a I don't know if I could call this like a psychological point of view, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean for me anyway, it gives you a good reference point of where you are in the present moment, where you were before,
Mm-hmm.
on to a degree fosters a huge degree of hope
Mm-hmm.
for the future to say, well, oh my God, I was in such a hell of a hole at this point 2 years ago, a year
Mm-hmm.
ago, 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see, I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're up, like catching how you are feeling and what you are thinking
Mm-hmm.
in a difficult time, say, to then look back on that and say, because life moves fast, and sometimes you think to yourself, I'm not making any progress here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
getting any further forward. I still feel as stuck as I did 2 years ago. Well, hold on a minute, Donny. Go back to your diary 2 years ago today. Go back
Mm-hmm.
to the journal and see what you like. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like that anymore. Or, I didn't see things the way that I saw them then. I see it completely differently now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's to say that there's an evolution and that there's been growth through it, that whole process. And then it's like, oh, I'm moving forward. And then this is what I'm saying. It gives you a huge degree of hope for the future because you've caught that dialogue with yourself and you've got it on paper. And it's, well, I'm in a much better position than
Mm-hmm.
what I was 2 years ago.
Well, the comparative part of that is always going to be a good thing. But I
Mm,
think inside that, why? Because you could be listening and thinking, well, maybe 2 years later, still nothing has changed and it's still the same. And it's like, well, that I can't see really how that would be possible fully. Because if you're starting the process, you're starting the analysis, you're starting to look at, you're naming stuff, you're labeling stuff, you're starting to ask why
100%.
it's there. That's the process in itself, if you want. That's how it starts.
Hmm.
And so doing all these things over time, it's I can't see how you can do all these things procedurally and intellectually and still have the same analysis that you would have before the analysis. It's like it's not logical for me that can be a result.
But
You know.
I suppose in some ways as well, George, that I guess there maybe is something to say here as well, because I'll look at myself, self-study here, but there has been times, like years have went by in my life, and even, I've maybe wrote some certain things and think, okay, well, like I've made a little bit of progress in
Hmm.
2 years. So I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes you do go missing, and sometimes you go
Oh
missing
yeah.
for depend. It depends. It depends, but I truly believe that things eventually just precipitously just drop. the drop, and then things start to click for you.
Mm.
But it's like that. It's like that analogy. There's an analogy where you've got this guy digging for gold,
Mm-hmm.
right? Digging, 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 and he's doing about 6 feet, 6 feet, 12 feet, and then he's like, "Ah, Sakis, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not digging. There's nothing here." But then he's down 12 feet, but he's here, and the gold is literally
Mm-hmm.
just need a
Mm-hmm.
couple more feet, and he's got the gold. So
Mm-hmm.
that's to say, it's like if you're digging deep within yourself, you never know. You might just be a ball hair away from making a breakthrough. But
Well,
if you quit, you'll never know, you
well, that's
know?
the thing, and that suggests then that you have to uh, be okay with uncertainty,
Yeah,
which is one of the most difficult things to do. But it's to be okay with the uncertainty that when the realizations will come.
yeah.
Because
See,
we're always looking for stability and we're always looking for certainty, and fear is you can there's people argue fear is like the what is fear, it's the it's looking into what you don't know, so it's the unknown or the end of the known or whatever it is. And um, the uncertainty is destabilizing because it's uncertain, right?
yeah,
But you have to, and this is where hope comes in, is that you have to have hope as a factor which will push you forward to keep going inside the uncertainty. And that's
yeah,
hard as hell to do, but
yeah,
it's something that you can't. If you take that out, then the whole game just collapses. And so you have to have a little bit of hope that, even if it's minimal, a little bit of hope that um, you will find out something, or you will change, or you will um, find your find your gold if you want,
yeah.
Um, because
See,
if you take
see,
that out, it can't work, and you're not going to get the result, and
you
that
say about
means yeah.
you say about uncertainty, right?
Uh,
But I think there's something to be said with just going with the flow, right? And
oh, that's a different thing. That's a different perspective. Yeah.
but there was someone like I used to. I think I maybe said this before. I used to spend a lot of time with my grandparents.
Hmm.
Um, and I used to like my granddad Tom, who's my mum's dad. Um, we used to do like I used to like make pancakes with him, but
Uh,
used to always watch Bruce Lee films with him.
oh, I.
Like he was mad into Bruce Lee, and there was someone like I remember watching an interview like with Granda. It was with Bruce Lee, and it's a pretty famous one as well. Where he says like, "Be like water."
Oh,
Or
I.
if you
Yeah,
pour
yeah,
water into a cup, it becomes a
yeah.
cup and stuff. Be like water, flow like water. So it's like if you have that in your head in uncertain times, that okay, this is uncertain, but I'll go with the flow because the reason why things are uncertain is because it's uncomfortable. I don't know this,
Hmm.
but you're journeying into the unknown. But sometimes journeying into the unknown is exactly where you need to be in order to evolve and grow as an
Hmm.
individual.
Hmm.
But that's maybe you maybe got a different point to that, but it's how I try to look at
I've got the same thing from a different perspective with the same analogy.
it. Okay, crack
Let's put
on,
it
go
like
on,
that.
do tell, do
It's
tell.
I can't remember where I read it, but I read it. I think it was just this last week. Um, if you take the water analogy and you've got the ocean and the wave, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the wave is still the ocean, so the suffering and all the problems is still part of you. However, the ocean cannot be the wave.
Okay, expand. What do you mean by that?
So the wave is part of the ocean. The wave is the ocean, but the ocean is not the wave.
Ah,
Meaning,
okay, yeah,
you
yeah,
see,
yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
so you start that with all the like the general ideas, like yeah, there's turbulence and stuff, and underneath it's calm. That's one way to look at it. The wave is going to be the thing which shows itself and manifests the ocean, if you want, um, uh, in a how do I say, what am I looking at? I'm losing my words today, man. It's not good.
All right, don't worry, don't worry.
In a way which is not calm, let's say, but the wave is always part of the ocean. You're one thing, right?
Mm.
And so if you're one thing, it's like, yeah, you have you do have stability underneath. You just have to find it. And your perception and your attention has to, yeah, I mean, because it's also normal. And this is the other thing with all this stuff. It's normal to be stuck onto this focus on all the stresses and the negative stuff. Um, but you have the capacity inside because it's not coming from the outside, or maybe it is actually. It's from this podcast. That's where you're getting all your good stuff. It's like, but it's like the wave is the stuff which attracts the tension because it moves. The wave is where the attention is always going to go to because that's the stuff which is, how would I say, it's making the movement because the still stuff is still, it doesn't move. But moving, if you can take the attention and the perception off the wave a little bit and realize the stability underneath it, then the analogy for that is that you have the capacity to do this. You just have to find it, and then finding it is the inner work. But on the other side, when I said the ocean is not the wave, then or the wave is not the ocean. Mixed it up now, but it's the directionality. It's the direction of the stuff because
Yeah,
all the stuff, the turbulence on the wave, is not what's underneath. The
yeah,
turbulence is not underneath. What you
yeah.
see on the top is not what's underneath. You see?
Well, I suppose that's. I'll give you another analogy. It's
Gotta
like
go.
the duck that is gliding across the pond, but its feet underneath the water are gone 10 to the dozen.
Aye, yeah. Well, there you go. That's it as well. And that's your inner work.
Yeah,
Looks all. Yeah, there you go. That's an
I
analogy
know.
for your inner work, man. It's like the duck looks all calm and peaceful and all the rest,
And how many
but it's
quacks have
like
we hit today? I've effed and
not
jeffed
too
and
many.
what?
I don't think
No,
too many quacks today.
no. I tell you, I'm going to
Four
buy
or
like a
five.
duck, a mallard or something, and just
A mallard. Why a mallard? That's an
I'll go
impossible.
I'll go to the
But uh,
supermarket and get a Peking duck and just
I can see why Peking duck, but mallard is an interesting one. Why would you say mallard, man?
I keep thinking of Theo Vaughn in his interview with Cat Williams, Mallard Luther King. He says about a black duck. It's hilarious,
I
like
don't know.
just
Haven't
absolutely
seen that.
hilarious. Oh mate, I'll send it to
Send
you.
that
I'll
on,
send
yeah.
it to you. Honestly, it's absolutely hilarious that interview. Like he's
Uh,
brilliant, Theo Vaughn. Like
um, but what would you say then? What would you say? I mean, we're coming up, that's an hour and four. I mean, editing and stuff, it's a little, there's not, we're probably at
go
about
ahead.
50 minutes or
What would I
something.
say?
But if we say the process, what's the process? The first initial awareness, which you can is only going to be your, you know, bringing your attention, let's say, to the discomfort that you have.
Yeah, and
And
I think to do that, moreover, and for people listening that are maybe caught in a bit of a storm themselves, and this isn't an easy thing to do, but it's something that I do regularly, and it's helped me greatly. Is to switch. It's probably better doing it at night. Switch off your lights. Switch off your computer. No headphones. No phone. No TV. None. But sitting in silence, alone in the dark. It's very uncomfortable to start with. Very uncomfortable. But if you can sit there for 45 minutes to an hour at a minimum, you'll things will start to come to you, and a way will present itself.
that sounds like your version of meditation, man.
Well, maybe yeah, that's a good point. I've never even thought about it like that, George. But yeah,
That's so just massively throws itself out to me there as that's your meditation.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it could.
and
Yeah,
also
I don't know.
the question, why do you put the lights out? It's the same reason of why people shut their eyes when they're starting meditation because there's so many distractions. And what you need
Yeah,
to do is like you need to center yourself and come into yourself. And what stops that from happening? All these other distractions. So that's why people tend to close their eyes. And like people who really know how to meditate, apparently, Buddha was always meditating, looking down towards the nose, and also with a little bit of a smile on his face. So look out for that next time you see a Buddha. A lot of these things which you see, it's always his eyes closed and stuff. But that's just a little sidetrack. Apparently, the after all the years and that he had been doing it, that the way to meditate, that he would meditate, is looking down towards your nose like this, but your eyes are open, half open, because you can do. It's okay. You're so centered that the distractions are not distracting. You know, so that would make sense for why you're putting the light out. Do
Yeah.
it at night. Turn off the light. Do it. I'd just say I wouldn't directly necessarily go. It depends on how complicated things are for the situation that you're in. But if it's not too complicated, sure, try it for 45 minutes. If you're struggling a lot, 45 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you can do it 10 minutes, even if like and build it up,
Yeah, just get used
it's
to
a
the
very good
process.
exercise, and I must admit, I do it frequently.
Hmm.
There's not 2 days that go by that I don't do that.
Okay.
That I'll sit alone in the dark, and it's a bit weird saying that
Well,
I
it
do
depends
that.
on
It
how you.
sound like I'm off my rocker.
Depends how you. Well, I mean, that's the thing. That's perception. Let's take this as an example for the perception. The outside doesn't change, and it's the inner game which gives you the perception of the external. You're talking about this and saying, sit alone at night with the lights off. Immediately, what are people thinking? Well, that's a bit odd. I just took exactly the same thing and called it meditation,
That's
and
true.
that's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, nothing changes there. The goal, even the objective, is exactly the same.
It's
But
just how it's perceived.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
That's
But then I suppose that comes. I suppose you could go down a rabbit hole of. I know. See, this is one of the like. What was it? Osho. Osho said
hmm
the greatest fear in the world is the opinion of others.
pre-inner work. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But as we do care a lot about what people think of us.
Well, it's normal. Everything's relational.
But but in the same token, it's like people are so focused and wrapped up in their own life and their own shit. They don't really have time to sit and pass judgment or look at
Well,
you, what you're doing,
that's the other thing. And this is why a lot of these things are to do with self-confidence and
Mhm.
self-esteem, because
Yeah,
honestly, probably 90% of the people that you pass, or 90% of the people that you don't actually have a conversation with, or and also the folk that you do have a conversation with, most people, just to be honest, don't really give a
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
specifically about you, you
Hmm.
know, and how you come across. It's like you think somebody's going to be sitting like a week later. Oh, you see that person I met at that conference? Like, a week ago we talked for 5 minutes. What a dick that person was, and he
Yeah.
was weird. It's like nobody cares, you know.
The
Maybe
world
in
moves
the
fast,
moment,
man.
huh?
The world moves at a hell of a fast pace.
Oh yeah,
Just,
oh yeah.
and I think there's something to be said for that as well. It's like, well, step into your weirdness, do what you want to do, as long as you're not choosing to encroach on other people.
Well, that's the thing. That's the basics of. Who's this now?
You're not
I
man in demand today. Like, you look like a call center worker with that headphones on.
I know.
Huh? Hi, this is George. How can I help you?
Sake.
Oh, whatever.
Sorry, just give me a sec. I'm going to edit this out as well.
No, dinner. It'll be ace.
Like, I talked to this guy yesterday as well. Anyway, um, what were we talking about? Oh, here's Barclay. Barclay, don't even start. Look, this is all getting edited out. Hey,
Pipi-Pause.
To be part of the blooper
you
reels.
talk
You
about
need to be
stress. I
part of
just
the
got
blooper reel.
a peak in cortisol there. Um, so yeah, sorry, what were we saying?
I can't. It's just been derailed, man.
It's been completely
Been
derailed.
derailed. It's all right. Don't worry, man.
Uh,
It's all right. It's what happens. The show must go on. It's the showbiz.
It was
Show
something
must go
about,
on.
I don't know, I don't even remember.
Honestly, mate, my head is like just like a bloody washing machine just now.
Well, let's go back to the uh, what we're saying. What's the process? The process, the awareness at the start, the little click.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be individual, but it has to come from a general idea or general sense of I'm aware that the situation, my situation mentally, let's say, is not good. And in
Asking hard questions to
asking
yourself.
asking the questions. You can start with small questions,
Absolutely.
but how hard they are will depend on your perception of your problem or your situation. Um, but ask the questions in the second part. The third part is that the analysis will start to come naturally because you're going to be looking for answers.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be the analysis inside looking for the answers, but then also the analysis of the answers after. Are the answers true? Do the answers make sense? Whether I like the answer or not, that's not the most important thing at that point. And so lower the intensity of that. And then you can say, if you want, add some journaling
Yeah,
for
I would agree with
comparative
that.
reasons, uh, and also just to get everything out. Because there's also um, I kind of, well, you said it, it can be a bit cathartic. Normally, people are used to saying stuff to therapists or friends or other people, but then there's also a safety side of that in that you don't have to share because you're sharing with yourself. You're writing it down on a bit of paper, so you're not in front of somebody. So all the problems with self-esteem and self-confidence and all these they don't matter at that point. So there's
Mm-hmm.
safety inside that. And so write the stuff down and then take it, let's say, week by week. Do it however often you want to do it. But when you get the sense that you're starting to make some kind of, you're asking your questions, you're starting to look for answers. Maybe not, but maybe and even if you don't get answers, it's okay because you've already started. The answers will come. It's, again, impermanence, nothing's permanent. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
permanently not have answers. Growth is a curve. Now, how quickly that curve goes up it depends on the person. It's all individual. There's no right duration of time. There's no right intensity of upward growth and upward spirals and stuff like that. Um, because it's your path and everybody's on their own path and it's all individual. Um, so use that. Do the journal. Do it for comparative reasons. At least at the start, you might not think you're going anywhere, and as you said, it's like you start to look back, maybe 2, 3 weeks, maybe less, maybe more, doesn't matter, uh, and then you can say, okay, well, let's have a look. Where
So,
am I now to where was I?
so we've got awareness, questioning, analysis, journaling,
Yeah,
anything else.
drugs.
Right. Aye, I tell you,
No, I'm
that's,
not
that's
kidding.
one thing you need. Bite a whiff of that and alcohol if you're going
Yeah.
through that
No,
sort
that,
of
well,
experience.
a bit of dark humor, but it's like that's exactly what you do not want to do.
Mm.
Why? Because that's exactly which screws your clarity. Because what you're
Aye.
looking for at this point is clarity. You're looking for answers. You're not
Mm.
looking for um, uh, you're not looking for self pity. You're not looking for uh, um, how would I say trying to make things better without actually doing the work. And for all that kind of things, you need clarity. So anything that's gonna dampen the clarity, you don't want to do.
Mm.
Okay. Um, but at the same time, though, I mean, this isn't diagnostic stuff. This isn't saying you have to do this and you have to do that. It's just like, what's the classic thing? I mean, it's like, okay, well, tell me the benefit of drinking in these situations. I mean, yes, it reduces the intensity, but you're going to be doing the same thing again the next day or the next couple of days because you're not getting a permanent reduction of intensity of your negative emotion. That's just not what happens. Also, that's how addictions start, man.
Mhm.
You're looking for the thing, what, and it's your brain. It's like, oh, I want to chill a little bit. What do? Have a bit of alcohol. What does the brain say? That works. And then you're like, okay, well, that
But
works, we're
then
fine. And then next day, oh, surprise, big, massive
it
surprise.
takes,
I need
well,
a
that's
little
it.
bit,
It
I
takes
need it
the edge
again.
off.
Yeah.
It takes the edge off in the moment, but subsequently it magnifies the problem, you know, later on.
Well, yeah, because you're going to probably add another problem,
Yeah,
which is your dependence on the alcohol for reducing the negative emotion side. You know.
yeah.
But also at the same time, I would say, don't be afraid to go and talk to somebody.
Mm,
Absolutely not.
yeah.
And you've
Aye.
got your men in mind, man.
Yeah,
Things
well,
like
I
that.
it's things like that, initiatives like
You
that
don't
help, yeah.
have to go and talk to like a psychologist or a psychiatrist at the start. There's always going to be some kind of helpline or something like that. And
Hmm.
also on the phone, maybe you don't like making phone calls, but you're not sitting in front of somebody, so there's also safety in that and a little bit of anonymity, you
Hmm.
know. But all these questions, people are going to know what they're going to do for themselves. But there's things out there which are possible to uh, help the process. And most of the work you have to do, but you don't have to do it alone. That's the thing.
Yeah, you don't have to do it alone, but I would say as a caveat to that is that everything, the, the the answers to the questions you have can be found from within.
Hmm.
Only you have those answers. And if you, it's okay to seek counsel with people and get a different perspective and stuff. But ultimately, you cannot take other people's advice in the direction in which you want to go your life because nobody else knows other than you.
Yeah, that's a very humanist and very anti-psychoanalytic approach to take.
Is that I
Yeah.
with the establishment?
But
No, I'm for a council statement.
yeah.
Okay.
No, but that's the classic humanist approach, and uh, maybe mix the humanist with a little bit of behavioral, I guess. But yeah, that's it. I think that's what I would say for the work. It's like that's how we would say the process kind of looks like generally at the start. Um, but if
I
you
think
need,
that four pillars is good. You know, the
makes
awareness,
sense.
the
Yeah,
questioning, and then the
yeah,
analyzing that, and then journaling about it as
yeah,
well. That's
yeah,
a good four-stage process for people to maybe get started who are maybe stuck in the mire just now, you know?
yeah, yeah. And then I would just say as well, don't hesitate really, because you don't have it doesn't have to be alone, you
No,
know.
no, absolutely not.
And especially if you need some kind of if you feel you need some kind of help to go through all these things, it's like, well, do it,
Hmm.
you know. Um, you're not going to get, even if you are going to a psychologist, psychiatrist, they're not there to judge you. They're there to help you,
Hmm.
you know. Um, and it's the same with, let's go for Men in Mind again. Go to Men in Mind, you know. When I come back, I'm going to go to one of the Men in Mind just to
You should,
see what
no,
it's like.
definitely, mate. You should come along, 100%. Like it's good, it's good. I mean, it's so simple to offer. Listening ear and an encouraging word. So I always
Well,
say,
that's it. I mean, because a lot of these things, I think, if you're going through, there's also, I think, a bit of um, a reticence to go or reservation to uh, exteriorize all these things because it's deeply personal stuff,
yeah,
you know, and it's not necessarily that's the kind of thing that you really want to share. But in it's the same like with the journal, and and I think it's probably I don't have anything to back this up, but I think it's a bit more when it's expressed verbally, there's more catharsis and calm after the catharsis when it's done like that, as opposed to journaling. Um, and I think that going to these kind of charities like Men in Mind, um, there's absolute utility in doing it. And again, these things are there to help. They're not there to judge. They're not there to criticize. They're there literally for you. That's the only reason they exist.
Yeah.
You know.
Peer-to-peer school.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
So use all the tools available, the good tools though. You know.
Yeah,
And
and don't shut yourself away from the world. It's
yeah,
there is going to be times where you need to do it to a degree,
yeah.
but don't go missing for too long. Always keep in
That's
touch
that's a
with
good one. I
people.
like that one. Don't go missing for too long.
Mhm.
Because it's okay to go missing for a while and just let go of everybody, but you're always going to have to come back because that's where the support is, that's where the listening ear is, that's where the encouraging word is, that's where the observation of what you look like and feel like comes from. Um, and if you're away for too long, you miss out on all that while you're away.
Mhm.
So
100%. That's a nice wee caveat to end it on,
I
isn't
think
it?
that sounds good.
All right.
All
See you
right.
the next day, folks.
Yes, that was episode 5. High five.
Adios, troops.
All right.